Bible Monday. Today we are going over chapter 2 of the Didache, which this chapter goes over some heavy hitters of sins that I have noticed a lot of times. People try to say that Jesus never preached on. So this is going to kind of refute that in a bit of a way. So just a reminder of what the Didache is. It dates back to St. James the Just, the first bishop of Jerusalem, and its official title is called "The Lord's Teaching to the 12 Apostles to All Nations." This one uses some more modern words. This chapter does in particular. But remember that the oldest full copy found, from what I've gathered through information, was written in Latin, and it was found in the 19th century. So any notions that anyone has that we're taking 21st century ideas and attempting to project them back in time and be like, see, Jesus said it because it's here in this document that's called the Teaching of the 12 Apostles to All Nations, is a horribly misplaced and grossly historical inaccurate idea. This one might ruffle some feathers with what this one's over, but I'm okay with it. So, this video, we will be starting with the Paternoster, the Our Father in Latin, because I am learning Latin and I enjoy saying these prayers in Latin. So we will get started in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Now I'm going to say this a little bit slow so that way you all can keep up. And when I cross myself after this, I'll do it slower. I meant to be slow on that one. That is my apologies. Pater Noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuam, adveniat regnum tuam, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis odie et debite nobis debita nostra sicut et nos debitimus debitor ibus nostris et nonas inducas in tintos sium, sed libera nova malo. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. I am sorry that I butchered that. I am still learning. I'm better at the Ave Maria than I am at the Pater Nosters. So, chapter 2. The second commandment, gross sin forbidden. In the second commandment of the teaching, you shall not commit murder, you shall not commit adultery. That comes from Exodus 20:13 and 14, from the Ten Commandments. You shall not commit Pederasty. You shall not commit fornication. You shall not steal. Exodus 20:15 is where that one's from. You shall not practice magic. You shall not practice witchcraft. You shall not murder. So these all right now, you shall not practice witchcraft, you shall not practice magic. We know that those aren't listed in the Ten Commandments, but those are listed further in the Bible. That is listed in 1 Samuel. For those of you who use the Douay-Rheims, that would be listed in 1 Kings. For the Douay-Rheims, it went 1 King, 2 King, 3 King, 4 King, which for us, using the New American or the Revised Standard, is 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings. So, that's where that comes from. And we see that in 1 Samuel when Saul or was it 2 Samuel? I'll have to relook. I know it's in one of the Samuels. Saul goes to a witch and has her bring back to life for the moment. She practices necromancy, has her bring up Solomon Samuel from the dead, to be like, hey, why is God mad at me? Which just makes God even more mad at him. So we're seeing stuff that's not just in the Ten Commandments, which Jesus himself, when he says the greatest commandment is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy soul, and all thy power, that's not from the Ten Commandments, that's from Deuteronomy. So we see that already in this one, we have a mix of the ones from the Ten Commandments and then a sprinkling of the ones that are elsewhere. So, you shall not murder a child by abortion, nor kill that which is begotten. You shall not covet the things of your neighbor. Exodus 20:17. You shall not forswear yourself. Now, this one is a bit weird. This one comes from the book of Matthew. This one, Matthew 5:34. But I say to you, this is Jesus speaking, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God. That's Matthew 5:34. What they're talking about is where it says, do not swear at all. Do not forswear yourself. You're not allowed to swear. You're not allowed to, which is funny because we still, when we go to courts, we have to swear. When we go, all swearing's still a thing. But Jesus is saying don't do it because we don't have that power to make things happen. That's the line where, that's the section where Jesus says if your yes means yes, your no means no. If you say yes, it means yes. If you say no, it means no. So that's where that comes from. You shall not bear false witness. Exodus 20:16 for that one. You shall not speak evil. You shall bear no grudge. That one, we all know, the bear no grudge, that comes from the book of Matthew as well. A little bit further back in chapter 5 is where that one comes from. It is where Jesus says, you shall not kill. Whoever kills is liable to judgment. When Jesus says, but if you're angry with your brother, you have already committed murder. So don't hold a grudge is coming from the same chapter of Matthew, chapter 5. And it's just kind of like a condensed version of Jesus' teaching on anger. Matthew 21 starts that section. So, you shall not be double-minded or double-tongued, for to be double-tongued is a snare of death. Your speech shall not be false, nor empty, but fulfilled by deed. You shall not be covetous, nor rapturous, nor a hypocrite, nor evil disposed, nor haughty. You shall not take evil counsel against your neighbor. You shall not hate any man, but some you shall reprove, and concerning some you shall pray. and some you shall love more than your own life. So, like I said, some of these are things that some people are like, oh, Jesus never preached on this. He never said nothing on this. Well, we have it right here from the horse's mouth, written by St. James the Just, at least as the current consensus goes, that Jesus did teach not to commit abortion or to kill a child. God forbade child sacrifice in the Old Testament. He said, do not be like your other surrounding kingdoms. He said, don't sacrifice your children. Jesus here is saying, and I, for one, personally, have always thought abortion to be a more modern thing. Turns out, killing your unborn child has been around since the time of Jesus. I didn't know that because guess what? We don't teach that in schools. So, you have here Jesus saying, hey, you're not supposed to do this, and you're not supposed to do this. And this is all stuff, some things that some people are like, yeah, no, Jesus never preached about this. You're just making it up. Jesus never, right here. It came from Jesus to the apostles who wrote it down to give to others to help them in their journey of becoming Christian. So, as you can see, these teachings echo much of what we know for a fact Jesus spoke of in the Gospels. However, the Gospels themselves said no account for all the things that he has done can be written down because there's just too much of what he said and did in those 3 years. So I have a theory. Because the Didache, as I have said before, is basically the first ever catechism, and it was more than likely paired with the gospel telling for those joining the church. Some teachings weren't included in the Gospels because they were already written down in the Didache and being passed around, giving room for more specific aspects of Jesus' ministry to be focused on. And before you're like, well, how does that work? Because remember, the Didache was written before the book of Mark. It's dated before the book of Mark, historically. Even like the later datings, it is still before the book of Mark. So this is kind of one of those things of, yes, it is mentioned in the book of Acts, as I have said, whenever it says the apostles' teaching was passed around. It would have been something, it would have been this, the Didache. But this predates the Gospels. In being written, the Gospels were orally passed around first. So they wrote this down for those who were joining the church, and then because we know for a fact, and we'll go over this whenever we go over church history, we know for a fact that they would send, as they still do today, they would send out anyone not part of the church, the non-baptized, they would send them out after the reading. Or the whole congregation would move, and they would stay in the other room, and then the Eucharist would happen. The Eucharistic procession and the Eucharist itself would be, we know that that's how that works. That's why the church still does it like that to this day. So there is a high chance that they sat and talked about what they heard in the Gospels, in the Gospel proclamation, or in the letters from Paul, or in the Old Testament readings. But this is very much something that they could have been going over. They could have been going over the Didache, talking about it, learning from it, learning Jesus' teachings from it, and whoever was in charge of that was no doubt a deacon, and they were the ones appointed by the apostles to do this kind of stuff. And they would have been well versed. They would have known the gospel. So they would have been able to be like, yeah, Jesus said this during this point in time. But that's just a theory for me. And that really is the end of this video. We will close this one with an Ave Maria, and I believe that's kind of going to be how we do this from here on out. Is we will open with the Pater Noster or Our Father if I do not feel like speaking Latin that day, and we will close with the Ave Maria. So we will go ahead and in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plana, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris JeSuS. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. In nomine Patri, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. God bless. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And tomorrow's video, we will be going over the life of St. Thomas Aquinas, because we are going to be covering the Summa Theologica first, and then we will go covering all the other saints. So, God bless.